Hello, everyone, and blessed be. Welcome to our final of 3 segments on Witches Connected. This is our top 5 movie lists. We just got done our my favorite top 5 witchy films. Then we did my top 5 horror films, and today, my most exciting top 5, my top 5 fantasy movies of all time. Yes. Oh my god. Alright, this is definitely gonna be my favorite list. That's kind of why I saved it for last. Alright, fantasy movies. I'm a big nerd when it comes to fantasy movies. I love everything that is fantasy. Like, I'm talking from beginning to end. I love every little character, ghoulie and goblin and everything. I just love it. So the list itself that I made wasn't I knew what my favorite 5 were, but putting them in order, like from 5 to 1, that ended up being a little tougher than I thought it would be. Mainly like near the end, like the last 3. But I figured it out. It took me some time, but I definitely got it. And I am ready to release and reveal my top 5 favorite fantasy films of all times. Yes. All right. Now there's something that I couldn't get over, and I just had to. This one definitely has an honorable mention in it. I just felt some kind of way not putting it in my top list. But it was actually one of the first one of the first fantasy movies I think I saw as a little kid. So, and it still holds a little piece of my heart today. And I could watch it. I think I still have the VHS of this movie, like in my dad's basement somewhere. So it's probably all dusty. How VHS tapes are all dusty now in that box, like all the way in the back of the basement. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's still in there, and I gotta grab that. Like, it would feel like weird not having the VHS, like watching it on DVD. I gotta watch it where it was all like kind of grainy and like not clear. Alright, so sorry. Alright, so coming in is my honorable mention at a very, very respectable number 6 has got to be Willow. If you haven't seen Willow, like, you really gotta get on it. It's a great movie, and it's just, God, it's so like heartwarming. And you got Warwick Davis, so Warwick Davis can go from playing Leprechaun to being like this little humble, little cute man. Like, he found this little baby, and all he wanted to do was do the right thing. But it was like, and then you got Val Kilmer in there just being like a G. Like, Val Kilmer, anything Val Kilmer plays in, he's probably gotta be like, he's always gotta be the hero. But he was kind of a jerk in the movie, but like he works together with Willow in the end, and then like it's just great. It's a great movie. So yeah, I had to put it on the list, even as an honorable mention, because it gets tons of respect from me. So number 6, honorable mention, Willow Off Good. Alright, coming in at numero 50. I just love saying that. I don't know why. I think I said that on every other list. Number 5. Yeah, this is a good one. And this is another one that holds kind of like a special like piece of my heart, because I was actually I was like right around where the main villain lived in real life, where he lived when he passed away. And I remember everybody was outside, like, it was just like a huge thing outside of his condo. So number 5, all respects go to The Labyrinth. Yes, David Bowie. Look, I think everybody knows that song. You remind me of the baby. Alright, I'm not gonna sing it. I'm sorry. But this movie it was great. It's when you can like deal with puppetry like that, and then add in human aspects and like just make it seem so real and genuine, like that was a great movie. Like, and they just like wait, no, that was The Dark Crystal. But yeah, The Labyrinth, I thought they were going to do a remake of that too, but I'm glad they aren't, because I don't want them to mess that up. And one thing, David Bowie, man, if you haven't seen it, you'll definitely know why he's such a like iconic character in that movie. Not because of the song. The song is great, but okay, this guy's bulge in this movie was like epic, man. It like set the standard for bulges. Like, I don't know, like what. I swear there was a couple parts in that movie that were a little like sketch for kids to be watching, but that was one of them. That was like the main one. I mean, if there was ever like he set the bar for like what your bowl should be. Like, if there was a battle of the Bulgers, he would have that like main trophy in the beginning. Like, it was crazy, and like there was other parts of that movie too. Like my favorite character was this little guy named Hoggle, he's kind of like he's kind of like a schemer con artist, but he actually he helps out all the characters some way and somehow. But the first time you see this guy. And I'm like, you have to remember, it's a kid's movie, right? But the first time you meet this guy, Hoggle, he's peeing. Like, he's just peeing in public, standing up, peeing in the river or something like that. And I'm like, why are they showing this? I mean, they didn't show his junk, but they showed the stream and everything. I'm like, oh, kids are not, I don't think kids are supposed to be seeing it. But, I think all of those like kids production companies back in the day, they all had a little ulterior motive. Like, I mean, that's my opinion, but I'm pretty sure they did. We all know Disney definitely did. But I think I don't know. But yeah, number 5 definitely coming in, The Labyrinth. All right, number 4. Okay, all right, we're getting into the nitty gritty now. This is where this is actually where it started getting kind of tough, because now I had to figure out like where are these where are these 4 fall? Oh man, words are hard today, everyone. But yeah, where are these 4 like fall in line with each other, like from best to worst? Not best to worst, but like 4th to 1st. You know what I'm saying? And it was tough, but I put them in order. And this one is like another one of the ones when I was a little kid growing up. It was one of the first ones I saw. And, it definitely, I swore I was in this movie. Like, I would make believe I was in this movie all the time, but I never was. All right. Number 4, coming in hot. The Never-Ending Story. Yeah, buddy. Never-Ending Story, man. That was good stuff. That was real like power fantasy right there. Because now we're starting to get into the realm where they could use some good like special effects and stuff. Like back in the day, fantasy was great, but the special effects started coming into play right when not right when, but the Never-Ending Story could definitely utilize the special effects pretty well, but didn't OD it where it like lost its effect. But I mean, every character in that, you got the rock biter, you got that like demon wolf, you got, I mean, just everything. God, it was just Valor. You got flying dog, like whoever thought, and you just ride this flying dog, like, and it worked. It worked somehow. Like it wasn't like, why is there a no? It was the bomb. He was the man. And and I gotta put this out there. Like, I think this might have been the first time I cried during the movie. Even as a little kid, I felt this for some reason. Not for some reason. There's legit reason why I felt this. When Artax and Atreyu were trying to get through that mud, and Artax couldn't make it. Ah, man. Oh God, that was too much. That was too much, man. Like that I still tear up because he tried so hard to get him out of there. And when that horse started sinking deeper and deeper in there, and finally he had to let him, oh man. All right, I can't think about it too much. That was tough, man. Like, oh man, I think that could have wrecked some kids' like psyches when they were young. I think it kind of wrecked mine. Like, maybe that's why I love animals so much now. I'm like, I cannot lose an animal like like Artax like that. That was tough. Oh man, great scene though. Great scene. Favorite character in that movie definitely was the rock biter though. I mean, that dude was just. He was just chomping down on those dogs. But doesn't that kind of make him like kind of cannibalistic because he was a rock? I don't know. I thought about that later on in life. I was like, this guy's just eating himself. Like, it's strange. No, that didn't sound right either. But you know what I mean. All right, so yeah, coming in at number 4, The Never-Ending Story. All right, now we're getting into it. The top 3. Number 3, yes. This is the type of fantasy I really like. I really like it like this. So number 3 sounds almost like number 5. Pan's Labyrinth, Guillermo del Toro. Yeah. Even though it was, it had subtitles, it was a foreign film. Pan's Labyrinth is that dark fantasy that I like. Like, it's on the border of horror. And, like, Guillermo del Toro, he's always doing some crazy, like, freaky horror stuff. And he I think that was actually, like, his, first big, production. And he OD'd it on that one, man. Because it was so dark, like, you would see, like, just the characters that they had in there. And they're eating fairies and eating their heads off, and just good stuff. The good stuff. And, you didn't even mind that it had subtitles and you had to read along with it. And it was just, it really did set the bar for, kind of dark fantasy movies. And he's really the only one who can kind of pull it off still. I don't think anybody's ever tried to, like, replicate a dark fantasy like that. Well, they try. But it always ends up coming off as like almost like comedic. So it loses its effect. This was all dark. There was no comedy involved. And just like how the production was done, like it was always like the lighting was just perfect. It was always like that dark blue lighting. And, it was creepy still. So yeah, if you haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, definitely check that out. That's a definite. And don't be shying away because it's a foreign film and you gotta read subtitles. It is worth the reading. And we could all use a little reading here and there. Come on now. Alright, so number 3, Pan's Labyrinth, most definitely. Alright, the final 2. There was bar none on the final 2, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I just had to figure out which one was which, and I had to figure out why one was ahead of the other one, and I figured it out, so I'll be able to explain. Alright, number 2. God. Oh, man. The impact that this movie, well, the whole series had on my life, man. Growing up, I was in high school when they came out, and I was into it. And I'll get to how into it in a second. Number 2, I picked one of the 3, or there's like 8 now, because you count the other ones. Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Yeah, man. Lord of the Rings took over my life from freshman year to sophomore year in high school. Like, I was the biggest nerd. I mean, alright, so in high school, I took French, right? I don't know why. Like, it was like 5 of us in that class. Of course I should have took Spanish, but I didn't. I wanted to be different, man. So I took French, and this was right when Lord of the Rings came out. And I remember, like, I skated through French with like a C. And today I couldn't speak like, I could say like, je m'appelle Jared, je suis de New Jersey, but I can't like have a conversation. It's impossible. But I literally sat in French class with a printed out, like full scale book on Elvish, speaking Elvish. And I think I could speak more Elvish today. I'm almost positive. I could still speak more Elvish. It's a fictitious language, by the way. A fictitious language more than I could speak French, which I took for 3 years in high school. I mean, I was just that into it. And, like, I remember when The Two Towers came out, me and, like, 4 other of my friends that were huge Lord of the Rings fans, we convinced our parents to let us skip school the next day and go see the midnight opening show. Oh, man. And that's not even the kicker. Like, we saw the midnight opening show. We convinced them to let us skip the next day so we can go see it again that following morning. And I remember, like, man, just waiting. And we got there early. Like, it was a midnight show. I think we got there at like 9. And we were drinking coffee all night and standing in line waiting. No, we were going to get a good seat, but we wanted the best seat, right in the smack middle. And man, that movie. I mean, I thought I was an elf. Like, I went, because I lived kind of in a wooded area, so like I remember going back in the woods, making bow and arrows, and then that kind of like, so I made a bow and arrow once, and I shot it straight up in the air, and it was kind of a windy day, and I shot the arrow straight up in the air, and this bow actually worked. I didn't know what I was doing, but it worked. I shot it up in the air, and the wind took it, right? The wind took it like a good maybe 20 feet to the right. And I knew exactly where that arrow was coming down. The arrow spins upside down, of course, comes flying down and pops a hole right in our swimming pool cover, because it was cold. So, swimming pools closed. It pops the cover and the water starts pouring out of it, and my dad comes outside and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. And he sees me trying to like reach over and grab this arrow out of there. And I remember him being pissed. Like, pool covers are not cheap. And this was like you gotta like really rig this thing up. And I popped a hole right in the middle of it, and he was like, you know what? I remember he cracked the bow in half. It was a whole ordeal. But I deserved that one. I did. But come on, what kind of wing does that? It was like it was waiting for me to shoot that arrow. Anyway, Lord of the Rings had a definite impact on my life. The only reason it came in at number 2 and not number 1 is because since I picked the Two Towers, I was one of those people that I saw it. I never even really heard of Lord of the Rings until it came out. So I saw the movies before I read the books, right? So the biggest part is the Battle of Helm's Deep. That was the most epic battle ever, right? And the elves show up, and the elves are shooting over the thing, and they're just awesome, right? And then I read the book, and I'm like, oh man, I got to the part about Helm's Deep, right? I'm like, oh, let's read about these elves, and it's probably going to be even more in depth than what the movie showed. And then I was broken, because before I knew it, I was done the Battle of Helm's Deep chapter. And you find out the elves were never even there. I was like, wait a minute. I went back and read the chapter again just to make sure I didn't miss something. But yeah, it was all for the movie, because Haldir and the elves were never at Helm's Deep. It never happened. I was like, the battle happened, but the elves were never there. So obviously, God, yeah, that broke me a little bit, but it made the movie good, and you gotta respect the scene, because it was probably the most badass battle scenes of all time. So I'll give it to them. They did it for the movie, but as a fan of Lord of the Rings, as I turned into, I was a little disappointed after I read the book and was like, hell, it was all not real. But yeah, it's still one of my favorite movies. The whole series, all of them are. But Two Towers was definitely my favorite out of all. Alright, here we are. We've reached number 1. And I'm sad, because even though this was a quick little 3-part segment, this is the end, kind of, and I definitely saved the best for last. This movie is probably just my favorite movie of all time. I could watch this a million, jillion, quadrillion times and never get tired of it. And this, it definitely wasn't one of the first ones I saw, but I remember it had the biggest impact when I did see it, because it's from the 80s, I think, but it's still it's so iconic. And number 1, coming in, sliding in, taking over with no competition whatsoever, Legend. Yes, big horned guy. Oh man, Legend, man. We got Tom Cruise when he was he still had the unibrow going on. It was after the chip tooth got repaired, but he was still really young in this movie. And then we have the honorable Tim Curry playing probably still to this day the scariest devil ever in a movie. If that's what the devil was gonna look like if he was real, I would say that would have to be him. We're talking hours and hours and hours of prosthetics and makeup. Like I said before, this is back in the day where makeup was everything. Makeup artists were literally top notch. They don't make them like that anymore, because you had to be on there was no way you can mask it with some CGI and jump. No, you had to be on point. And there's no better makeup job. I'm pretty sure I even won awards for that. God, that devil. And Tim Curry, rest his beautiful soul. He was an awesome actor, and he was, oh God, Tim Curry. He was even in another one I would probably give honorable mention to, is Fern Gully. I don't know if you guys remember Fern Gully, but he played the voice of the sludge guy, the evil sludge man. But his voice was just iconic. But him playing the devil was definitely my favorite role of his. Maybe Congo too. He was funny in Congo. But as far as fantasy-wise, man, like that movie had everything I love. Like, it had goblins, it had elves, it had fairies, it had the demon, and man, it had unicorns. It had everything a fantasy movie is supposed to have. Like, there was not one thing. It had the river witch. It was the perfect movie. It is the perfect movie. I want to watch it. Like, I'll probably watch it right now because I haven't watched it in probably about a year. So I'm probably, after I get done this, I'm probably gonna slide that in there because. Oh man, and then the soundtrack, it was just great, man. I'm smiling. I'm literally smiling because I love that movie so much. And honestly, I don't think it put, now Top Gun put Tom Cruise on the map, but if you're a fantasy fan, I'd say Legend put Tom Cruise on the map for me. I'll be honest, I never even seen Top Gun, and everybody's, I've never seen Top Gun. It's like one of those movies like Scarface. I've seen parts of Scarface, but I've never seen it all the way through. So I'm like, everybody's like, how could you not watch all of it? Okay, I did. Sorry. But for me, Tom Cruise, Legend put him. That's when I found out who Tom Cruise was. And I was like, this guy is something. And yeah, it's definitely my favorite movie. And, God, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, I had another crush in that movie. And no, it wasn't the princess like everybody would think. It was Una, man. Una the fairy. I loved her hair. She was so graceful, and when she went from being a sprite to a human, like not a human, but she went from being a sprite to like a fairy little sprite that flies around as a little light, and then she like appeared to like she was like full grown. And the little elf guy was like, oh, what? You been hiding this from? Yeah, it was just great. Everything good about that movie. Oh, man. Favorite character goes between Una and Blix. And if you haven't seen it, you'll know exactly who those two characters are. But if you haven't seen it, you better go check it out right now. Just because. So, yeah, there we are, man. So we'll go through it again. My top 5 favorite fantasy movies. We'll start with our honorable mention. We're going to go with Willow Off Good. Yeah, gotta love them. Number 5, David Bowie and the Bulge, coming in with The Labyrinth. Number 4, we got Artax Sinking in the Mud and The Never-Ending Story. Then we got dark fantasy. We got fairies getting their heads bit off in Pan's Labyrinth. Then we got the Battle of Helm's Deep with the elves that never actually showed up in Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. And then we got the Honorable Tim Curry and the unibrow of Tom Cruise in Legend with the bighorn guy and the hot fairy named Una. So there we are, everybody. This has been really fun for me. I know that the channel's still super young, but I wanted to do something fun before we get back into the seriousness of our readings, which will start again tomorrow night. We're continuing in our reading of Wiccan Beliefs and Practices. I think I said principles in the last video. It's Wiccan Beliefs and Practices with author Gary Cantrell. We're going to start chapter 2 tomorrow night, so can't wait to see you guys there. Hope you guys enjoyed this quick little 3-part segment, and I will see you all tomorrow. God is blessed, blessed be, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.